Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Daily with Jay and Clay and David Piatek too. David, we are so glad you made it. There is some important news that you want to share with folks because there is a cascade effect that happens when we don't do certain things. Sometimes good things happen from our actions, and sometimes bad things happen from our inaction. With that, hey, I'm going to skip you, Clay, because you look tired. I'm going to bounce over to David because he looks like he has energy. David, please introduce yourself to the folks. Let them know who you are, and let's dive into it. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, and let's roll. David, good to see you, sir.
So, David Piatek, make sure you guys hit the like, subscribe button to my channel, Housing Education. We do a lot of education around the veteran community for housing and how really to educate yourself and have your best interests at heart, so you can make the best decision for yourself and your family. So thanks, Jason. So today what I want to talk about is something that's currently in Congress. They're trying to pass this trigger bill. Basically what it means in a nutshell is if you've ever tried to buy a house and you had a credit inquiry, all of a sudden your phone blows up with phone calls, text messages, emails, mail. They may even do announcements on the radio for you somehow. So what they're trying to do, which makes sense, is they're trying to reduce the amount of annoyance that happens with trigger leads. So in a way, trigger leads trigger consumers because it is crazy. Like they'll send me a screenshot of their phone saying like, how did I get 20 phone calls and they're back to back, and they disguise themselves pretty good. They'll do like local area codes. They'll make it sound like it's extremely important for you to call them. You may get mailers in the mail that look like they come from the VA. Now, the FDIC and a lot of organizations have been trying to curtail this, but it's just not happening. So they're trying to get a bill passed. And, the mortgage industry has its own reasons. But at the end of the day, you didn't opt into getting phone calls. This is a opt-out type of situation, which I think is nonsense in my mind.
I got a question for you, David. Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of protecting your information, right? Something I went to school for on the cyber policy side is something that I practice in my everyday, even when I traveled. I'm not tired, Jason. I'm looking at my laptop, which is just down. So I'm traveling. I'm at my in-laws' house for Thanksgiving this year. Just protecting your information is critical. When it comes to protecting yourself from trigger leads, one, is there something that veterans can do? And if there is, what are those things, or what is that thing? Or is there nothing we cannot do until this bill is passed?
Well, okay, there's a couple things that you can do. So one of them, you can go to donotcall.gov and get opted out there. The other one, which is in a way more important, because this is how they actually also sell your data, is to go out, optoutprescreen.com. And so we'll drop that in the description, but it's a way that you can get out of a lot of marketing services. Just note that it does take like a week or two. So if you're thinking about doing anything financial, make sure you register on there. At least give it a week before you go into it. But yeah, guys, I'm telling you, it's insane the amount of phone calls. The other thing that you want to do, because your data is sold, okay, and back in the day, they used to sell a lot of information, like the first 6 digits of your social, and then you just basically get to confirm the last 4. On top of that, they can do soft credit checks now. There's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of things that go on in the industry that, I'm just not a big fan of. They're trying to curtail that right now. Another thing, because that information is sold, and pretty much I think almost anyone can buy it, is to make sure that you lock your credit report or freeze your credit report, so some people are not going to be trying to attack and get your information. Because as you see, get those emails like on the black web, Clay, you know about this, right? Like, oh, your social security number has been exposed or whatever. And I feel like a lot of this stuff is from a lot of these trigger leads that people buy, and then they sell them when they shouldn't be selling them.
Yeah, good point.
I'm sorry. You can. I'm glad you brought up the social security numbers, because you can also freeze that, right, which sucks because you have to unfreeze it whenever you want to do something. So don't forget that. I don't think I've ever unfroze it when I wanted to go do something. You're gonna have to do that, but that's a solid practice. And
Yeah.
I want to explain like how the targeting ads work, and then I'll turn it over to you, Jason. So the reason why companies, and not just mortgage, but any company can get away with it is because what's being targeted is your information that's not identifiable, right? And so they don't know that my cell phone number goes to Clayton Sims, or they don't know my address goes to Clayton Sims. Now they can have a cell phone number and they can have an address, but nothing identifiable. And so they're targeting like this cache or like this internet bubble, right? That is separate from you, but that internet bubble is essentially your entire life. And so that's really what's at stake here. You'll see that a lot in like open source research policies. And I'm hoping that Congress can actually push this, because I cannot stand getting phone calls or text messages and a bunch of mail and all that stuff. Anyways, that's all I got. Jason, go ahead and take it from there.
Yeah, I I just wanted to throw out as well that, you know, these, I guess, procedures that you can do to really kind of wrap a cocoon around yourself, it's good and it is a smart thing to do. Absolutely. Is it a fail safe? Will you never receive a phone call? Are you never going to receive another piece of mail? No. Still going to happen, but vastly less, right? You're going to receive way less of it. One of the things that also happens, and David, I mean, you're in the industry. Obviously, you're a national presence, so you have big reach. A lot of lenders focus on very geographical, you know, my backyard type of a thing, and they'll work with title companies out there and get farm packages.
Yep.
Again, getting all the information. Hey, this is the interest rate they currently have. This is the mortgage company it's with. This is how many years they have left. And if it's viable, then they might print all of those labels out and then mail out a bunch of mailers
Yep.
to a geographic area. So you're still going to get that type of stuff, but it's, at least you know that it's typically going to be an industry professional probably that's doing that, instead of it's loose. But
It's
instead
very
of, you don't know, it's somebody from China who's getting, you know, access to this stuff, because not every inquiry into your financial situation is going to be legitimate as well. You're going to be people, there's going to be people out there trying to defraud you under the guise of, if this is for a mortgage, right? I know you're looking. My question for you, David, is, and it's kind of piggybacking on Clay's comment, as you tighten and you turn all these screws of safety around yourself, meanwhile, interest rates are dropping down. How do you suggest somebody who's maybe not quite ready to refinance, but they want to be ready to pull the trigger when they are? So in other words, maybe they want to get pre-approved either for a purchase or for a refinance, and kind of wait and just see where everything's at, but they don't want their credit to be in harm's way during that process either. You know, so can you turn it on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off, you know, because you're going to have to run the credit again at the end. I mean, it's going to be a little bit cumbersome. Would you walk somebody through that? I mean, are you going to be kind of that point person for them? Because it sounds, nobody wants to be overwhelmed. And that's the point that I'm getting at. And Clay alluded to it with, you know, I always forget to turn it off when I go to do something. So then I got to jump through hoops. People hate that. So people will risk their safety for ease all the time. Happens all the time. So will you be a hand that will help somebody through that process if they're looking to purchase or refinance?
Definitely. Yeah. And surprisingly, a lot of people do have their credit frozen. Now, there's different ways to do it, right? Sometimes it's extremely painful. Like sometimes we have clients that have to like send mail into the bureaus in order to get it unfrozen. And that just adds to the time, especially if you're like Clay and I'm like, hey, I'm not buying a house. All of a sudden, hey, I want to buy a house today. Now all of a sudden that delays that process a week or two, which is extremely frustrating. So if you go online and lock it, then it's a little bit easier to be able to unlock it by logging into your credentials. And so when you also create these passwords, don't make them extremely easy. Okay. Make sure there's some complexity to them and write them down on your desk table instead of saving them in your browser, especially if it's something really critical. So that way people just can't get access to that, but also have it readily available and know where you put it so you can actually reset your password if you or just be able to log into it. So normally
Tattooed.
what happens, yeah, up your, don't tattoo it either, by the way. That wouldn't be a good thing because they normally have to reset them after a certain period of time.
A bunch of
But,
lines.
yeah, that wouldn't be good. But yeah, just make sure because let me step back a second. So let's say you're going through the process of getting pre-approval, which again, you can contact me down below and happy to help across the country. Is that we'll take a look and someone will have frozen credit. Like they forget. Like that happens every time. I don't think I've had somebody this year that's like, wait a second, my credit is frozen. Let me unlock it first. It's been like, we pull it, it's frozen. Hey, can you unlock it? And then we just do a new, or not a new pull, but it just kind of, the data company will pull the credit report through, which is pretty nice. And then we have the credit score. What happens too, what I've seen with lending institutions is they will, like, let's say somebody only has 2 out of the 3 credit reports locked. Okay, and this is where veterans fall into a dangerous situation with getting pre-qualified, pre-approved, whatever you're going for. If you have 2 of the credit reports locked and only 1 is available, and a lender gives you a pre-approval, you run the risk of other debt coming through on the other 2 credit bureaus. They don't report the same information, which is also, I don't think they should be reporting all of it, but not every creditor reports to all 3 because it might be too expensive or whatever the case may be. So just be aware of that. And another big component to that is that lenders can't run a software system for an approval, which I did a whole video on, like manual underwrites versus what an automated underwrite looks like, which you can check out the channel for that. But it's all relevant. Like you don't think about it day to day. You're just thinking like, oh, I'm buying a house. I'm a veteran. Chop, let's do this. And then you start running into problems, or it's extremely easy. Then you find a house and then you run into challenges, which I think, I want to say thanks to a lot of viewers that have reached out. They've gone through the process or going through it. And they're like, hey, running into a problem. Can you help me with something? Like, definitely you can reach out. I mean, I just talked to somebody yesterday. So even on the weekend, I'm available. So and you actually talk with me to go through whatever you're trying to do. And also planning ahead is important because home ownership is not something that you wake up today and like, oh, I'm going to buy a house. It's something that normally takes time, planning, just like being in the military. The further out the plan is, I think the better. When you get closer, does the plan change? Yes, but you already have a plan in place. You can pivot that plan. And one thing you did mention, Jason, I want to touch on is that what happens when you opt out of everything? Now you get nothing in theory, right? So now you have the opportunity to actually miss out on an opportunity that may be favorable for you. Easiest way to do that especially with the finance part, check, if you go to my channel and subscribe, we're always doing updated videos to this. So at least you're getting content you want, right? Then we're going to be pushing out, hey, more rates are shifting, or this is what's going on in the industry. So then it's on top of mind to be like, hey, you know what? Opportunity has come up. Because getting 20 phone calls a day versus watching a video, much easier.
Yeah, good call. And I'm going to add a little bit to that. Even though we're speaking to veterans, right? There's also spouses, there's dependents, there's grandparents, there's cousins, there's all kinds. And maybe somebody who's watching either knows somebody who doesn't qualify for a VA loan, or they themselves don't qualify for a VA loan for some reason. You actually do other loans too, and you can help guide people down that mortgage rabbit hole. I mean, there is so much out there when it comes to lending that people need somebody they can trust. Clay and I trust you. You're a great resource, and that's why we keep having you back on the channel. You're a veteran. You're still serving in the reserves, and if anybody out there, this is information that you might not need today, you might need it in the future, but your sphere of influence, you can be a resource. You can give people additional information and have them reach out to you as well. So I appreciate you for that, David. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, especially right now with the holidays coming up, a lot of people are getting together. Real estate is such a hot button item right now. Again, like Jason mentioned, if you guys are talking with people and they may be scared of getting into the market, one thing that we've always said is that it's not the market, it's you. Are you ready to be able to purchase a property? Are you comfortable with the payments where they are today? Because if you're not today, where do you need to get to so you are comfortable? But keep in the back of your mind, as the markets shift and adjust, historically, values have gone up. So if rates drop, values will continue to go up. The wintertime in the north, anyways, is kind of like the best time to buy because it slows down the most. You have the best chance of winning because there's stigma around the VA loan, which this is what we fight against, right? Like, how do we educate you guys so then you know how to leverage it for the people you work with? So just kind of going into that this next year, get yourself, a resolution should be budgeting, focus on credit, because it'll free your life up, not just from like, let's just put aside buying a house. You want to go on vacation with your family. You want to send your kids to a different school. Maybe it's a private school, right? Maybe you need to get a car. Anything revolves around credit and budgeting, because if you put yourself in the best financial position, you get the most favorable financing terms. A viewer, a couple of them have mentioned a statement I've made a couple of times in the channel, is that when you don't need money, everybody wants to give you money. But when you need money, nobody wants to give it to you. Good credit solves that problem. It really opens the door to financial freedom, because if you have an emergency, or let's say you burn down half the house because you're trying to, boil a turkey or deep fry a turkey, insurance may not cover it. But if you have good credit and you have access to equity, you are able then to get things repaired, or emergencies are not as difficult as a financial burden on you. So, but thanks again, guys, for having me on, and looking forward to the next one.
All right. Hey, do you want to send us out, Clay, because you do such a great job?
Yes, absolutely. Right. So something goes wrong if we don't help each other. Right.
That's right. Call David.
All right. Call.
That's right.
His links will be in the description.
Schedule a call.
That's right.